can tell it to you, but as God, I'm going to have to tell it to you because in life, you might be at this stage and I have to say it this way. And then you get to another stage, I'll say the same thing, just in a different way. When God called me, God called me as a little child. There are people in the room that tell the story of when I was a little boy, they said I was preaching to the chickens, right? I was a little boy, and I would wear my daddy's tie, and I would go to the chicken coop, because wouldn't nobody else listen to me, so I'll preach to the chickens, right? And they would say to me, that was my calling, because they said that no little boy should preach the way he's preaching like this to chickens. And then they said something. They said that the chickens would come up and listen to me preach. Like anytime else, these chickens are running around this chicken coop and you can't catch them. But I would come out there with my daddy's tie and preach, and the chickens would just walk up and stay there till I was done. That's the calling as a child. That was to show everybody else in my family, this is what he's called to. But then I got into high school. And then people would call me the preacher's son because everybody knew who my father was. And so my father would have me on certain Thursdays. You remember this? My daddy would have me on certain Thursdays. I would have to go to school in a suit. And I'd be like, why do I have to go to school in a suit? And but what I did understand, here's the thing. See, I can look back from a different perspective now. What happened is I'm still going into detention and all this good stuff in a suit. But what happened is my daddy said something. He says, the way you dress is going to determine how you feel. The way you dress is going to determine how you feel. If you dress nasty, you're going to feel nasty. So at least once a week, you're not going to dress like everybody else. And this is going to separate you from everybody else. And I said, okay. I didn't want to do it, but I did it. Now I understand why. Next thing, I become an adult. And then God starts to speak to me directly in my understanding. And he says, okay, I'm calling you to this. But I can't call you to something that I can't expose you to first. So what he did was have me start hanging around a bunch of preachers. And I'm like, why? I'm not no preacher, I ain't no pastor, but why am I hanging around all these preachers and pastors? They would call me just to ride with them. Hey, man, come ride with me. I got to preach tonight. And I'll be like, I ain't doing nothing else. All right. But he was exposing me to something because he says, when the moment comes and I give you this mandate, you're not going to run from it like you think you're going to run from it. Okay, that's good. All right, let's keep going. Oh, you know what? That just hit me. I'm so sorry. That just hit me. God never tempts, but he will construct. Okay. Because I have something in my notes. I'll put it this way. God never tempts you, but he will test you. He will never tempt you, but he will test you. The reason I bring that up is if we fighting and trying to understand where we need to go versus where we want to go, you can't be tempted to go somewhere because temptation comes from the inner man. It comes from you. You can't be tempted with something that you don't really want. You can't be tempted by something that you truly don't want. If you don't like candy, can't nobody tempt you with candy. They can present it to you all day, and it ain't gonna do nothing to you. But if you have a sweet tooth, and you know you like candy, and you know there's a particular type of candy you like, you know if somebody presented to you, it's not the presentation, it is what's inside you that's going to make you take it. Oh my goodness. So what happens is we find ourselves going places that we truly want to go to anyway. It's not the fact that God didn't just allow you to do it, it's that the enemy knew that that's where you wanted to go in the first place. And so he presented it to you, and now you're dealing with temptation from your inner man. Oh my goodness. Is that helping you? Okay, let's keep going. The next one is, this is a big one. Who I want to be with versus who I need to be with. This deals with our dependency. And I ain't just talking about married couples. I ain't just talking about relationships. I'm talking about circles of friends too. Who I want to be with versus who I need to be with. Because there are some people in your life that are in your circles that the only thing they bring out of you is the worst part of you. There are some people in your life that only bring out the worst in you. It seems like you don't act a fool until they come around. And we've been friends for years, but there's something about you that brings that out of me. There's something in your lingo that brings something out of me. It seems like every time we get around, like I don't deal with I don't ever get in no type of trouble until you show up. There's a movie that's out, I can't remember the name, there's a movie out with Kevin Hart and Mark Wahlberg that's on Netflix. Yeah, you seen it? Yeah. And so what happens is Kevin Hart is this good guy, right? He's just, trying to take care of his family, being a great guy. But then there's a guy from his friend from his past end up coming up in his life. And it seems like the minute his friends show up, it seems like his life goes off the rails. Some of us got friends just like that. That it seems like, they don't always come around, but when they do, it seems your life get turned upside down for 24 hours. 48 hours, or however long y'all are together, it seems like your life is on this merry-go-round, and a whole lot can happen in 24 hours. Yeah, who we want to be with versus who we need to be with. Everybody that feels good to you don't mean good for you. Yeah, every person that make you feel good, just because they make you feel good don't mean they good for you. The enemy has, again, trapped us in our feelings because we make decisions based off how we feel about people other than basing off the facts about people. You can have the facts in your face, but just because the person makes you feel good, you think they are good people. Oh, my goodness. Yeah, a lot of us are getting hurt because we are depending on our wants to take care of our needs. A lot of us are dealing with hurt because of that, because we put a lot of our trust in people that we want to have our back. But when the rubber really meets the road, the ones that we want to have our backs are the ones that leave us and walk away from us and put us in a place of despair. I always look at this. When God is really trying to show you something and maneuver your life, he begins to change the circle that you deal with. When he's really trying to maneuver you, he first starts with remember that inner circle. That inner circle begin to get rocky and shaky. And it's not until the ones that you are with can stand the test of time, the ups and downs, because everybody that elevate with you, they're not willing to descend with you. Okay, that's good. Next one, because I don't want to waste no more time. Next one is what we want to be against versus what we need it to be against. When I was writing that down, because we have the propensity to always talk about what we're against, but we really never tell people what we are for. We always tell people what we are against. I'm against this, and I don't know why they're doing that. It's always something negative. But we never tell people what we are actually for. Ephesians 6:12 reads this way. It says, "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places." This is what helped me with yesterday. Because a lot of us are trying to deal with the person instead of dealing with the spirit behind the person. Yeah, we so busy trying to deal with that individual and go back and forth with the individual, but we're not really focusing on that there's a spirit that's pushing that individual. So what happens is you deal with that individual and then turn around and deal with somebody just exactly like the person you just dealt with, because you didn't deal with the spirit, you dealt with the person. Oh my goodness. A lot of us are dealing with that, and we get mad at God because it seems like we're dealing with the same person over and over and over again. And what happened is that you're trying to deal with the people, the flesh, but you ain't dealt with that spirit. And then you really need to look around in your life and say, why do I keep attracting this type of spirit? Because now you got to do an inner look at you and seeing what's going on with you that you're attracting this type of spirit in your life. See, we never want to talk about that. We want to talk about the spirit of other people, but then you need to really talk about what is attracting those spirits to you. Okay. All right. Ooh, same issue, different person. Yeah, some of us need to pray against the spirit of attraction. Because some of the spirits that you're attracting, you want to attract them. Okay. Oh my goodness. Okay. Again, a friend of mine is a fisher, right? And he would say this phrase. He says, "You can only attract certain fish by the bait that you use." What bait are you using that's catching these same types of fish? Oh my goodness. What are you doing? What are you putting on social media that's bringing the same people in your life? What are you talking about when you are in certain circles in your life that's bringing these type of people in your life? What are you doing? Who are you giving access to your life that's bringing the same spirit into your life that you have to keep dealing with over and over and over again? Oh my goodness. My last one, Jordan, you can play because I'm done. My last one is the circle you want to be in versus the circle you need to be in. Somebody say destination. This deals with your destination. You may be surrounded by people who fit who you used to be, but not who you're becoming. A lot of us are dealing with people in our lives, they fit who we used to be. It don't mean that they bad people. It just means that they fit who we used to be. But they do not fit who you are becoming. And so what happens is if they don't fit who you are becoming, there is a detachment that has to happen, because you can't bring everybody up, but people can keep you from going up. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. And we don't want to realize that, because it makes us look arrogant when we know that we are increasing in our lives, in our spiritual walk, and then we turn around and we have to now ask, why am I hanging with you? Why are you in my circle? Why are you here? Because you're not adding anything to the pot, but you're definitely taking. Oh my goodness. Ooh, you feel guilty for becoming who God has called you to become, because you are being lifted, you are being changed, and everybody else that's in your circle are staying exactly the same way. And then you feel guilty because you are on a different pedestal, or not, you're a different level than these other people in your life. And then you feel guilty because it's either you're going to come down or they're going to come up. I heard Bishop T.D. Jakes say this. He says, if you're the smartest person in the room, you are in the wrong room. Yeah, that hit me when he said it. If you're the smartest person in the room, then you're in the wrong room. If you're the only person that's talking about God in your circle, then you might be in the wrong circle. If you're the only one talking about being an entrepreneur in your circle, then you might be in the wrong circle. If you're the only person that's talking about doing life at a different level, then you might be in the wrong circle, because oh my goodness, negativity is an energy that most people don't ever talk about. People that are always negative. Do you know those people that you talk to that you trying to talk about something good and great, and the only thing they can bring to the table is something negative? You'd be like, why are you? I'm trying to talk about what God is doing and what I'm trying to do, and they'd be like, how you gonna get that kind of money? Don't worry about it. Oh, Jesus. If you want to see Pastor Chris frustrated, is get me around people that always got something negative to say. It frustrates me, because I'm a man, because I know what God has done in my life, and I have watched God do the impossible. And so if I can see him do the impossible, I don't have time to worry about people talking about what he can't do. Just because he didn't do it for you don't mean he can't do it for me. And maybe he was trying to do it for you, but you wasn't willing to do what it took for him to do it. Okay, all right. See, because here's my problem with people. People will talk about what they couldn't do and blame you for why they couldn't do it. When the truth is they couldn't do it because they chose not to do it. The reason why people don't like you is because you challenge them. The reason why people do not like you is because you challenge their everyday normalcy. When you're really trying to do something and you're really trying to walk this thing out for God, then you challenge people's theology on how they live their own life, not by words, but by action. People say they got faith until their faith needs to show up. See, people talk about faith. That's all good and great until God says, move. Then you be like, well, God, I lived here for... My family's here. My house is here. We just paid off the house. Now you're talking about move? Well, where's your faith? And especially if you know it's God talking, your circle gonna mean a lot. Your circle gonna mean a lot. I love my son, right? And me and my son, we having these conversations because he's grown now. He's 20, finna be 21. And now we get to have these, we have these grown man conversations, right? And so I tell him, I say, all right, son, now I can talk to you like I want to talk to you, right? And so we're going to have these man-to-man conversations. And now he bring me more conversation. You know, my son is very quiet, but he'll come downstairs and he say, hey, Dad, I need to talk to you. I'm like, all right. I'll stop. When he say that, that means I'm going to stop whatever I'm doing. That's my son. I don't care what's going on. I'm going to stop what I'm doing, and we're going to sit down, and we're going to have a conversation. And he'll tell me, hey, this is what's going on in my life right now. And he'll be like, well, what do you think? You know, that's what he said. He said, what do you think? I'm like, well, listen, son. And I always tell him, listen, now remember, you didn't start dealing with this. This didn't start happening until this person came into your life, this person came into your life. Now remember, like, you have to be able to pinpoint when you started dealing with certain issues in your life and then look at what was going on at that time. I said, you wasn't even fooling with this until this person walked in. See, I said, now that's a grown man thinking too. And knowing how to cut people off. Knowing how to cut people off, because we have got to the point where we don't want to hurt people's feelings. But listen, this is my life. This is my life. You ain't got to like it. And that don't mean I'm going to do it in a mean, vicious way. But I'm telling you right now, there is something going on where we try to please people, and we'll go through, we'll sit ourselves in a place we don't want to be, like detention, when we ain't got to be. We put ourselves in a place of detention when we don't have to be there. If we just cut loose the people around us that need to be cut loose, God says, I can lift you and move you forward, but you're attached to the wrong thing. How many times have God tried to push you, but there was an anchor attached? That anchor could be friends. That anchor could be family. That anchor could be your emotions to the friends and family. There are many times where God will allow you, He will allow you to sink long enough. He'll allow you to sink long enough because if you're not willing to move, then I'll let you see everything else go up while you go down. All right. Because God will give you a preview of your future with a new circle. He will give you a preview of your future with your new circle. God taught me this as I began to connect with my pastor, Pastor Mike McClure Jr. there in the Rock Church. And now he's connecting me with other pastors in that lineage, right? And, you know, I pastor here, Life Changes Church. Me and my wife had the opportunity to go to Birmingham for the first time. It was a couple of years ago. And I had experienced church, right, on some great levels, but not like this. We went to Birmingham, and my pastor treated us, you know, like I was some big time, like we had a mega ministry. I mean, when I tell you they rolled out the red carpet for us, and I wondered why, and he told me why. He says, because I want you to get used to this. He says, because this is where you're heading. He says, God will never, and he didn't do it for nobody else but me and Pastor Kim. Like he treated us like we were headlining the conference that we were going to. And we up there with Pastor Jamal Bryan, and we up there in the green room with all these, you know, quote unquote celebrity pastors. And I'm like, you know, for me, I'm in the room, so I ain't talking. I keep my mouth shut. I speak only till spoken to, you know. And what happened was we walk out with all the other pastors, right? We walk out with Jamal Bryant and all them, and people are looking at us like, who are they? People don't even know who we are and asking to take pictures. Like, they was like, hey, can we get a picture with y'all? We like, yeah, okay, sure. All right. But our circle had changed. And just because of the circle we were in, people automatically thought that we were something. They automatic, so they asking for our number. They're like, I got pastors all over the country asking for my number and say, hey, let's link up and all this good stuff. And then they get our information, and then they see us on live and all that, and it looks great on TV. Like if you ever look at the TV and look at us on YouTube and all that, it looks great. And so we get calls all the time. We get calls all the time, but God hasn't released me yet. See, I'm very strategic on trying to hear the voice of the Lord. There's a lot of stuff that I don't do very well, but one thing I try to do very well is hearing the voice of God. And God haven't released me to start doing a whole bunch of traveling and doing all this and trying to make my name great. God told me to make Life Changer's name great and God's name great, and then people will know you by the church. So that is my job. That's why I say we're going to take over this city. But he had to show me a different circle. I said, okay, we're going to take over Austin. He says, well, let me get you with somebody that knows how to take over a city. And that's my pastor, Pastor Mike. And he took over Birmingham, Alabama. He took over actually the state. He got churches all over the state of Alabama. And he's actually constructing and helping us all over and trying to mentor us on how we're going to do it here in Texas. And I said, okay, Lord God, I hear you. He says, but your circle, I need your circle to change. Because what I don't need is a whole bunch of doubters. I don't need a whole bunch of complainers. I don't need everybody that's going to try to convince you what you can't do. Because the number one thing, God, it says it is impossible to please God without faith. It is impossible. That's the only time you ever hear God say something is impossible. Check. I've checked. The only time he says something is impossible it is impossible to please him without your faith. It's going to take faith while being in detention, while going through what you're going through, while God, it's one thing to have faith, but it's a whole other thing to have faith when you're by yourself. It's one thing to have faith when you're by yourself. A lot of us have been by ourselves and we've let our faith slip. We've let our faith slip because the enemy wants us to be in detention too. How could God and Satan be using the same thing? Well, let's talk to Job and see. Because God puts you into a place where he's beginning to mold you. But the enemy will use the uncomfortability of being molded. I told you, God never operates in your comfortability. When God starts to move in your life, he's going to shake the foundation that you're on. When God starts to really transition your life, he's going to transition everything. It ain't just going to be one portion. It's when you start to look around and you see everything in your life changing and everybody's starting to be, have you ever got to the point where everybody getting on your nerves? Good and bad. The ones for you or against you. You like, everybody shut up just for a moment. Just everybody. Don't ask me nothing. That's how you know, okay, God is, and that's why I say, okay, God, all right, I know when this is happening. All right, God, I need to hear you. I need to hear you. So what I do is I put my own self in detention. All right, we're going to cut this TV off. All right, I ain't on Facebook. All right, I ain't on Instagram. All right, I ain't watching Netflix. All right, kids, go away, upstairs, do whatever you need to do. Don't say nothing to me. Put the cats up, put the dog up. I don't want nothing in my view. I'm going to be right here, and I'm going to hear God's face. I'm going to open up my Bible, and I'm going to start reading until he starts talking. And it might be a couple of days. I'm like, all right, well, Lord, I really didn't hear nothing today. All right, I'll see you in the morning. The faith that it's going to take to get to the next level. I told you, the determination. What are you determined to do? Some of us talk a good game, but we ain't determined to do nothing. A lot of us ain't determined to do nothing because God is actually talking. God will say some stuff to you, and then you'll act like it ain't him because it ain't what you want to do. Did that bless your life this morning? Stand to your feet. Hallelujah. I said we're going to do a whole lot of shouting today. Yeah, you sure right. Thank you. Thank you. I want us, again, I can't speak for no other church. Are we perfect? No. But I want us to be a ministry that have a grasp of understanding how to live this life to the best of our ability. Listen, I believe in all of it. I believe in the dancing. I believe in the shouting. I believe it is necessary. I believe in speaking in tongues. This ministry believes in speaking in tongues. Let me do this. If you have not been part of our new members class, if you want to come and know who we are as a ministry, you need to come. You need to come. Matter of fact, let's do this. I'm gonna do this right now. On a Sunday, that's what I'm gonna preach. I'm gonna preach our new members class. So people will know who we are. We'll put it online because we need to know. We have forgotten what the church needs to stand for. We've forgotten it. We Christians, I ain't talking about the unbeliever, I'm talking about the Christians. We have forgotten what we stand for. What are the do's and don'ts? Why do we believe what we believe? Some people we speak in tongues, don't even know why. Don't even know the significance of it. Don't know the purpose of it. So I'm like, okay, God, I hear you. I hear you. We need to get back focused. We need to get back focused. All right, God, I hear you. Even in this teach, I said, okay, God, what's I was trying to plan for the next thing. And he says, let's get back focused. All right. Whatever that means, God, as you deliver, I will give. But let me tell you how God operates with me. God operates with me first. I'm going to be very honest with you. God operates with me, PK, and my family. Before I can get up here and talk to y'all, he deals heavy with me. Because I come from a place of conviction where it ain't just me preaching to y'all. I can't preach something I ain't doing. I won't preach something I ain't doing. Woo. A lot of preachers are doing that. A lot of preachers are doing that. A lot of preachers are YouTubing other pastors preaching and taking that and going, and you haven't gotten what's for this ministry. I want to know what's going on here. We'll worry about out there when we get there. But what is life change? What is life changer's purpose?